Liver King, Liver King, Liver King here. I've been working out for the last 35 years. The last 15 of those years, I've been living an ancestral lifestyle.
Why eat vegetables when you can what?
Eat testicles.
Just bone broth, liver, and meat.
That was disgusting, yet very ancestral.
Business had been growing 12% a quarter, every quarter.
We have videos with hundreds of millions of views.
Primals, primals, primals.
I felt like new levels of invincibility.
Light it the fuck up.
That kind of feeling is dangerous.
I don't think anybody was ready for what was going to come out when you have all these eyeballs on you.
People would come to me and say, bro, like, come on, he's on steroids. And I would say, no, man, he's not.
Just for the record, I've never taken steroids.
We saw existing customers drop. The messenger has killed the message.
Leaked emails, blood test results, and it is shocking to say the least.
Did you mislead people?
That was a trailer for the Netflix documentary Untold, The Liver King. And this is Factual America. I'm your host, Matthew Sherwood. Each week I watch a hit documentary and then talk with the filmmakers and their subjects. The Liver King built an online fitness empire by devouring raw meat and promoting an all-natural ancestral lifestyle. Director Joe Pearlman unravels the wild story of the Liver King's rapid rise to internet fame and the backlash once a steroid scandal came to light. Joe's film reveals the true picture of the man behind the brand, at least as much as that is ever possible. Stay tuned to discover the real Liver King. Joe Pearlman, welcome to Factual America. How are things with you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the show.
Well, it's great to have you on. We're just to remind our viewers and listeners, we're talking about Untold, The Liver King. It's next in the Untold series, releases on May 13th. I think we're embargoed until then anyway, so it will have released by the time you guys see this. Congratulations on that and getting it in the can, and it looks fantastic. I've seen it, and it's great to have you on, and can't wait to talk to you about, I think as you described them, this hurricane of a film or a subject we're about to discuss. Before we go do the deep dive, maybe you can, for those who don't know, those who've been living under the rock, or those who are maybe my age and don't pay attention to these things as closely as maybe we should or shouldn't, what is the Liver King all about? Maybe give us a synopsis.
It's a very good question. Well, the Liver King kind of burst onto the internet in 2021, something like 2020, 2021. And his whole thing was selling the ideals of an ancestral lifestyle. What does an ancestral lifestyle mean? Well, going back to the way our ancestors supposedly lived back, I don't even know exactly when he's talking about. So I guess we're talking about no shoes, no Wi-Fi in the house, and quite a strict diet of testicles, blood, heart, and liver, which according to the science, apparently, if you eat the organ that you have a problem, if you eat the organ that you have a problem with, you have the corresponding issue within your body to the organ you've eaten, and that's kind of his philosophy. So he was for a while selling supplements on the internet, which encouraged this lifestyle.
I am going to call a slight time out there, not for you and me, but just for the audience, just to say, maybe this is a good point to talk about a spoiler alerts. I don't think there's anything we're going to talk about that would really spoil the film for you. But in case you're sensitive to these sort of things, I think we've already mentioned eating testicles. So I think it pretty much is getting straight to cutting to the chase. You know, you might want to take a break, watch it. It's a fast moving hour and 20 minutes or so. So do enjoy it and then come back. But as you were already saying, you're talking about who this guy, the Liver King, or also originally known as, I think, Brad Johnson, this ancestral lifestyle. So you were kind of, it's more than, and when we see ancestor, we're not talking about 300-400 years ago. We're talking thousands and thousands of years ago.
We're talking about
cavemen,
primitive tribes. That's kind of what the ideals are based upon, essentially.
Yeah. But I don't know if primitive tribes were bodybuilding, but he's into that.
I don't think they were.
Well, probably not. Had enough on their hands, dodging all kinds of saber-toothed tigers and things like that. Like you said, raw meat supplements. He's extremely successful businessman. Talked to my sons about it. Yeah, they know who the Liver King is. He is everywhere. And he's also, it's more than just hawking his, well, I won't say snake oil. I mean, he's got these supplements and a lot of people believe in it. And some of the stuff he talks about, I mean, stuff that RFK Jr. is talking about, these days, right? Meat tallow and these sort of things, and avoiding.
Yes, the only thing that's missing from the Maha movement right now is the Liver King.
Yeah, exactly. He's sort of a preacher of a new religion, isn't he? Almost like a televangelist of old.
I think so. I think his ideals are kind of centered around the idea that men are weak and that we've gone too far into the modern comforts and we don't struggle enough. So by doing the ancestral tenets and these workouts that he sees as a rite of passage, we become more masculine and become more of a man, I guess, in someone's eyes.
I mean, this is all, I guess, relatively compacted timeline we're talking about here. But the question everyone keeps asking is he natty, right? So is he on steroids is the question. Now, did you know about any of the revelations going in? When did you start filming before or after?
No. We started filming afterwards. The kind of drama of the Liver King had sort of played out online, and he'd sort of gone into hiding a little bit. It felt like after the apology video that he put out that we look at in the film, he sort of retreated a bit and certainly didn't get the same kind of level of virality that he was definitely demanding in the early years. So no, I did know that he had lied and he had misled people, but that wasn't what I was curious about.
Right.
I felt like I was looking at not very often do you find characters in documentary who are playing multiple characters at the same time, wanting to deceive you at all times. And I think that he was so complicated that I felt like I had the opportunity to get under his skin a little bit more and truly understand who he really was. Something that the internet thinks it did from afar, but it certainly did not.
And we'll get to that because I think that's exactly what your film does. And for those who are interested, yes, the film does reveal some things about the Liver King that probably others have not heard about yet. So hence those kind of spoiler alerts maybe that I mentioned earlier. But going in, I mean, what were you expecting? I mean, you filmed a lot of celebs and music and sports. I mean, what surprised you most? Although we had RJ Cutler on one time and he said, well, I'm never surprised because if I do my research, right? But I mean, what kind of, what surprised you with going in?
I didn't think I was going to meet the Liver King because at this point, with everything that had happened in the past, I thought I was going to meet Brian Johnson. And this was going to be, how do I, retool the way the world looks at me and use me, essentially, a filmmaker, as a conduit to rebrand and go again. And I thought that's what I was going into, which would have been an interesting challenge to kind of pull out the character of the past. But when I walked in for the first time, the top was off. I could basically see the smell that was coming off the man, and and he was all Liver King, and and from that moment on, it was like, okay, how long is this going to take for the performance to crack? When am I going to meet someone else? And what point is that going to happen?
How many layers of that onion, that proverbial onion, you're going to have to peel to get to the real man?
Of course, which always takes time, regardless, of course. And I think RJ's quote is brilliant. You shouldn't be surprised by anything. But I guess what I was surprised by was the dogged intent to stay within a character that felt like it had been thrown away almost 6 months earlier. But if anything, that was sort of like a privilege, because it was like, okay, so we're still here. So what does that mean when it comes to the actual human? And what does that mean now? And then, the first filming trip felt very performative. Like everything, almost every day, there was something that came up that we hadn't discussed, I don't know if you want me to talk about scenes or anything like that, but in the film.
No, I'm happy to. Anything you want to talk about.
Sure,
I mean, I think it's anything. Yeah, go ahead.
So in the film, there is a moment where the family decides that the freezers aren't full enough. So, so a bull is pulled into a field and dissected would be, I guess, the nicest way to put what happens to that bull. We had no idea that that was going to happen. Suddenly on camera, he was talking to his kids about the freezers being full, which was clearly contrived. And the next minute we're in a field and he's killing a bull. So there were all these moments that felt so performative. And I felt like that whole first trip was going to be that. And I was in for that because what is this film without the Liver King? Like, that's what people are coming for. I need to show you the character and then the man that he is. But I just knew that the trips that followed would have to really dig into who Brian truly was.
I mean, this isn't uncommon, as you say, for documentary filmmaking. But I've no near the experience you have, but have been on projects like politicians and people like that who are always on message, or always in a certain character. But would you say it's almost kind of the age we live in, isn't it? We are all these, or many of us are personas online.
Yes.
And we feel like we've got to keep, I mean, I'm not trying to do the lessons for you in terms of what the film's showing, but I think it's so true that a lot of us are kind of in this sort of world.
Totally. And I think that if you look at my previous films, I've always kind of been privileged to really meet the human behind the character. And I think one of the conversations that I always have at the very beginning of the project, when I'm even thinking about doing it, is you need to be all in, otherwise I can't be all in. And if you're all in, I'm all in. Like, I'll live with you, I'll do whatever you need, like, we'll be there every day. And I never got to do that with Brian. I had to sort of prove that to him. And I think that first trip, I kind of sort of earned the trust. But yeah, I think that we do live in a world of people wanting to portray a certain image and trying to control their narrative. But I guess as a documentary filmmaker, we have the privilege of returning to the scene of the crime and continuing to push.
Well, on that note, actually, I'm going to give our listeners and viewers a quick break, and then we too will be returning. So we'll be right back with Joe Pearlman, the acclaimed director of Untold, The Liver King, streaming on Netflix.
Factual America is brought to you by ALAMO Pictures, a London-based production company specializing in feature documentaries, factual television, and shorts about the U.S. Benefiting from an outsider's keen eye and years of stateside experience, Alamo's filmmakers explore topical, uniquely American stories from a sympathetic European perspective. The result is engaging cinema and television that defies stereotypes and helps audiences truly understand what makes America tick. Check out Alamo's website at alamopictures.co.uk to be the first to hear about new productions, festivals showing Alamo's films, and to connect with the team. Now back to Factual America.
Welcome back to Factual America. I'm here with Joe Pearlman, the director of Untold, The Liver King, streaming on Netflix. Now, we were just talking about this online personas and the fact that The Liver King still exists. In fact, it's hard to find anything else there but The Liver King. He's still in character, despite everything that's happened. That you have a great scene, too, where you're talking to, is it his PR firm or marketing firm? They show up the film quite a bit, where they portray him as being reluctant at first, but once he realizes what you need to do in order to get the clicks and the likes and all that, then he is all in. So he does really understand what it means to be in character and what you need in order to get millions of views.
Of course. I mean, to say anything positive about Brian is to say he is one of the greatest marketing geniuses I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
Like, the man has created something and created businesses that turn over an unbelievable amount of money, all based around purely the things that come out of his mouth on Instagram. That's an unbelievable feat. Whether it's true or not, whether he's lying to people, it's an unbelievable thing. So I think that, underlying all of that is a man who understands, what it means to market himself. He had to learn that. I think there was a long time, if you look at his childhood, this, as far as he is concerned, he was a subdued child who, didn't have a father figure, and mother was quite controlling, which meant that he had to kind of go and kind of find his own way. which I think meant that he was much more reserved. And, because of, as he talks about in the film, because of his height and because he was quite a skinny kid, he felt like he was bullied a lot, which meant that he suppressed a lot of, I think, who Brian truly was. When you look at some of the archive that we got from his family and from his mum, he's a lively, happy kid and the kind of center of the party and all those things. So immediately you question whether any of that is true either. So I think it's a constant discovery of what's true and what's not.
Well, this is where this is all headed with some questions I'm going to ask you. I mean, but let's cut to the chase, or not necessarily, but you get to at least one, or if it's not the master interview, right? With in there by the fireplace and everything. And he sort of finally reveals himself, or at least tries. Okay. He's still evidently taking PEDs, right? I mean, and he does it on camera, right? Is that what was that about? He just takes out the syringe and
it's all a performance. He had to do that in front of me. There were multiple times that he did that, but he had to, from the beginning, he wanted the film to admit and acknowledge the fact that he was doing all of those things, because what's the point in denying it anymore? So I remember on the first day, we were in his bathroom, and he went to this little fridge that they had kind of carved out in the bathroom and picked out his, I think it was human growth hormone, and just took it in front of us and like kind of looked me in the eyes as if like, you think you're going to get this out of me? And it's like, no, the world knows that. Let's see the rest of it. Let's see what else is going on. So like the drugs part of it sort of was something that was kind of always there, and he always wanted to refer to it, and he quipped about taking steroids the whole time. And it's like, okay, but this isn't the first lie, is it, Brian?
In that interview, he starts talking about how he was stealing from GNC. GNC, for those who are not from... See, he and I are both from San Antonio, oddly enough. So, I think I know what mall he might have been working in. So that's the natural food supplement type place. So he says that this all got started. He then has that big breakdown and reveals to you that, he's been living all these lies, and it's because he has low self-esteem. And he started off by stealing. I mean, we don't need to go into the details. It's not even all that exciting, except that he found a way to make money from the stuff that people returned to, So basically he was doing some sort of fraud, basically, with GNC. Then it led to selling drugs. I mean, so it seems like his whole life has just been... He even says this is the first time he's been caught, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think that's the pivotal moment. That's when you see who the real Brian is, I think. There's a moment of real, for whatever reason, I don't know why that happened in the interview. I mean, the master interview was over 3 days. We probably did maybe 5-6 hours a day. So it was intense, and we were going late as well. And he was really pushing to carry on. And then there was just this moment where he hesitated, he stopped, and he was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to tell you everything. And he just went. And I at the beginning, I'm like, why? And also, is this lying? Are these more lies? Or is this true? Or are you revealing yourself to me? It was very hard for me to understand in that moment what was going on. And I think it was just the first time in his life that someone was actually really interested in who he was. And he took a lot of pride in a lot of the things that he was doing. And I think it was all building towards this. And who better to tell than the guy with the camera who can tell millions of people online that, haha, sucks to be you. I've been doing this since I was a kid. And that's what it felt like to me. It felt like a moment of vulnerability, but also, I think deep pride at the success and the achievement he's had out of, as far as he's concerned, nothing.
I think I asked a version of this question already, but who really is the Liver King, and can we ever know?
I'm not 100% sure I know. I think there were definitely moments where he revealed himself to me and was very vulnerable, especially on that last trip with him, when I think that he was quite exhausted by the process and didn't want to put on the performance anymore for me. I think he's desperate for attention, desperate for friends, and kind of desperate for some love. And that sort of manifested as this what seems like overly masculine and over the top character that that actually is looking for something different. But what's interesting, if you asked Brian this, it would be a 45-minute answer and you wouldn't get to the bottom of this. And I think that's sort of the point of it. I don't think he knows.
I mean, he's an enigma, obviously. I mean, just to restate the obvious, but he's kind of he reminded me of another Texan, Lance Armstrong, and the same, you know, and someone I don't know why. I guess we do want to believe. I mean, you've got great footage in there. Joe Rogan saying it's so obvious that he's on steroids. I mean, everyone can tell, but you know, when Lance Armstrong is at his peak, I was like, no, he's just an incredible guy. He survived cancer and all this stuff. And sure enough, he was doping.
But in a world where, you know, we are deeply disheartened with a lot of the government systems and kind of systems that we have in place, you know, whether it's healthcare, whether it's societal, whatever it is, Brian bursts through as someone who has other ideas. And that's interesting. We should listen sometimes to people. And I think that, you know, there are things that Brian was saying during that period, you know, put down your phone, spend time with your family. That's not offensive. We should do that. You know, he talks about sauna and cold plunge, you know, since I'd be totally transparent, since I started filming, I do that every day now. And it's something I love and it makes me feel great. And it's something that's really improved my life. You know, will I take it to the extreme of testicles, blood, and hearts and all that kind of stuff? No, that's a different conversation. But, you know, there are ideals within this that are really interesting and shouldn't necessarily be poo-pooed. The problem is that because of the internet, there's no traditional gatekeeping that happens when these people are allowed to become experts on things. Right. I mean, either political, healthcare. I mean, look what's happening with Joe Rogan right now. It's constant. I don't know how you, I don't know how you sift through the shit and actually find the people who have real opinions. That's what's really hard. And I think that's a real challenge that the internet has presented us. It's a very interesting modern challenge.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. I mean, I do want to go back, just briefly back to this point about who he is. I mean, do you think his sons were actually sick? I mean, I say that because, like, it kind of gets back to what you're just saying. He's done this because of seemingly a motivation because he was worried about his sons, right? And, you know, he doesn't strike me as someone who would normally, you know, but he said he read all these books and that's how he came across his lifestyle, and it has helped his sons. And, you know, and all these things as you say are on many of them are good things, but it does seem even those close to him don't really know for sure.
Were his kids sick? I would say if you watch the film and you watch the footage that we show of childhood, I think you see my opinion without me having to say anything.
I think you're. I mean, I thought, and the way you ended is interesting. So he's got his wife there, and you know the question's always is, what does she know or doesn't know? You know, but what is that great line? I'm going to get it. I'm going to garble it a little bit, but wasn't good or bad.
It was perfect. Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And you're like, wow.
Well, he's sitting on 10 acres of ranch in the middle of Texas, overlooking, you know, what can only be described as an absolute dream home. Yeah. His wife is, you know, covered in jewels.
Right.
They, as far as they're concerned, it's been a success.
Yeah.
That's you know, that's what matters to them. And in a world where stacking money is what matters and showing off the things that you have, look at this. It's gold. It's over the top. Yeah, it's over. You know, it's gold. It's over the top. That's what it's about. And you know, he describes it as savage luxury, as if our ancestors would be. You know, it's got savage elements, but at least we're coated in gold. I don't know. I think the ending pretty much says exactly what you are suspecting about their intentions.
So how did you get involved with this project?
So it's something that I've been quite interested in for a while, and I work very closely with a company called Full Entertainment, and also Bitachon 365, and then also they had also with James Goldson at Candle Media. Okay. And it kind of came up and we were chatting about what I was interested in doing next, and Liver King came up and I immediately was like, I'd love to just get on a call with that guy and see and see what's really going on. Because it seems like a dream
subject, right?
Agreed. Yeah. It felt that way. So I kind of jumped to the opportunity, and it felt like within a couple of weeks I was in Texas and we were going, which was great.
Wow. So was this already a Netflix idea, or was this your idea and then you pitched it to
No,
Netflix?
it was pitched into Netflix, I believe. I actually don't know.
Wow.
I'm not actually sure, actually. No,
Yeah.
I think it was pitched
Okay.
into Netflix.
I mean, we've already talked about I think the main challenge was trying to get to know this guy. But I mean, this is a guy who's lived, the last 3, 4, 5, whatever, longer years online 24/7, right? I mean, how many hours of footage did you have to troll through?
A lot. So it took a while for them to truly open the coffers to us, but it was thousands of hours of reels and Instagram posts and videos and YouTube videos that they had shot and not used and all that kind of stuff. It was a lot. I would say thousands of hours.
And then you get all the reaction videos and
yes.
all the other podcasters and influencers who are going on. I mean, it must be thousands and thousands, if not going into a million.
Yeah, it was a beast of a project. But luckily, from previous projects, I'm used to handling comical amounts of archive. So you kind of just suffer through and you watch it all and you kind of move on from there. And the team are amazing. We've got a great archive department who worked with me. So yeah, it wasn't so hard, but I think the intention from the start was to allow the internet to tell the backstory. So the kind of unfolding internet story of the Liver King. I didn't want to do that as a retrospective in the now, which often people do. I wanted it to play out in real time as much as I could, and I feel like we sort of delivered on that.
No, and just letting that footage speak for itself. I mean, on many levels, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, I mean, you come at this from as a British filmmaker, and what is your experience with? I mean, look, I'll be the first to tell you, no, most Texans aren't like Brad Johnson or the Liver King or Lance Armstrong, but just America in general. What is your what is your experience going over there, filming this, diving into this subject? I mean, what does it tell you about America? And I'm not even talking about the politics, right? I'm just like, what's going on? Because this is kind of just to give you, our listeners don't even know this yet, but we're going to be expanding a little bit. We're going to be doing more than just more than documentary films. We're going to be trying to go this journey of what is making America tick at the moment, which is we'll be doing
multi-parter.
Yeah, exactly. More than 5 episodes, I think. Yeah. What's going on in my country?
It's a very good question. I mean, if I look at specifically Brian's story, I mean, it feels like the land of the free to me. That man has been allowed to do whatever he's wanted, and pretty publicly as well. And no one's really done anything about it. So, I mean, the opportunity to create that world for yourself. I don't feel like there are many countries where you can be the Liver King, where you can be Brian Johnson without, the government coming for your kids or something, which I know we talk about in the film, but it's seen in a different light, interestingly, I think, in America.
If that happened, I mean, those kids definitely would have been taken away if they'd been in this country.
100%, 100%. And I think, so I think that's really interesting. And I think also, Texas is very specific. We were surrounded by weaponry at all times. And, that can be intimidating. Coming from the UK, you don't see that stuff.
Right.
And I think a lot of the time, if I'm being totally transparent, I think it was used to intimidate me a lot of the time. Genuinely. I think that was part of it. And I think it was a play of masculinity trying to better me or scare me or whatever it was. And that felt, it felt threatening at the beginning. Then it was comical because what's going to happen? I mean, anything can happen, but thankfully nothing happened. But yeah, I think those were kind of my big takeaways, I would say. Great barbecue.
Oh, it's what I miss the most.
Great barbecue.
That and family, but yes.
But yeah, no, I just think that America allows you to be these characters that other countries wouldn't. And in the rest of the world, we kind of thrive on the entertainment of this.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to get political. We look at the president, great TV, but what is going on? So
he's great for content generation, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
So yeah, it just feels like that's only going to get worse. And I think that, as I said earlier, about the kind of traditional gatekeeping that comes around, giving information out and giving ideas out that has just been overlooked. And the internet allows people to be experts on stuff that they know nothing about. And I think that's very dangerous.
There's this thing that's almost traditionally, or at least in my mind was traditionally, more of a sort of a British characteristic, which is with the media, certainly, which was building up people, and then Fleet Street would then turn around and tear them down, right? But that's now happening writ large with the internet, right? And especially in the US. So you see that, like, as soon as he comes to the fore, there's this wave of people. I mean, some would probably argue rightfully so, but
well, I think that's my counterpoint, is that in the UK, you're talking about Robbie Williams and those kind of people who are harassed by the press because the photo would change a journalist's life. A story would change a journalist's life.
Right.
If you look at now, people are just hunting for bullshit now desperately, and that's sort of what the internet feels like it's about. And I think that when it comes to especially characters who preach something that has inherent value, but also inherent holes within it and questions that you want to ask the person but never get to. So I think, ultimately it's dangerous out there.
Well, certainly I don't even do that much social media, but it feels like the Wild West often when I'm on there.
Me too. Truly.
So what's next for you?
I got a couple of things in development, and I'm doing a film with Netflix, which I can't talk about yet, but will be out this summer. And then a series as well with Netflix about the great football manager, Jose Mourinho, who worked with
Because you did a BuzzFeed doc, didn't you?
I did do a BuzzFeed doc quite a few years ago. But 3-part series about Jose Mourinho, which I think will be out next year, which I'm doing with Ventureland at the moment, which is very exciting. A different challenge to Liver King, but
I can
equally
imagine.
as difficult.
But you're working direct. I mean, you're interviewing him, and he's in.
I've basically spent the last year with him. So that'll be coming soon, and then a load of other fun things coming down the line, hopefully.
Would love to have you on again.
Be a
to
pleasure.
talk about Jose Mourinho if we can.
Sure.
It's not directly an American story, but we'll make it one.
Of course.
So I just want to give you a big thanks again. Just remind our listeners and viewers, we're talking with Joe Pearlman, the acclaimed director of Untold, The Liver King. It's releasing on Netflix on May 13th. Do check it out. It's well worth your time. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Factual America. Please subscribe and like us and share us with friends and family. Find us on YouTube, social media, and factualamerica.com. This is Matthew Sherwood, signing off.